Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Quartet Lesson 12 Part 1 live stream. Tonight we're going to be covering といっても, gachi, and に応じて. These are the colors we use for each of our live streams. We have light blue for new grammar sections, and the other colors are for words that have not shown up in Genki or Quartet yet, but that we feel are important when they're pink, or that are on the JLPT, so are probably worth learning. If you have any general questions tonight that are not related to the certain section that we're on, or that you just want Yuki and I to answer, not just someone in chat, make sure you put question in caps before your question. And at the end of each section, we have a question time that we ask you a question and then you answer. And for your answers, make sure you put Q time in caps before the answers so that we know to check them live on stream. This is a live stream, so as you know, all of the live streams are sponsored by the members of ToKiniAndy.com and the Patreon, so thank you so much for your support, guys. And the members of the YouTube channel as well. There's a bunch of members here. Thank you so much for being members there as well. Thank you so much. It's because of you guys that we're able to continue making these live streams every week and all the videos that we make as well. So you're awesome. The first section we're going to be covering tonight is I said X, but in reality with といっても. But this is a live stream, so let's go ahead and say hello to everyone who is in chat and get Yuki over here to say hello as well while I go and turn on the light back there.
Hi. そんな。はい、こんばんは。みんなこんばんなな。
こんばんなな。
はい、久しぶりの人もようこそ。
All right, the first people we had here tonight were Dashiel Baker. Welcome to the live stream. He says, 最近忙しかったけど、暇になったので、今夜のレッスンが楽しみです。
はい、ありがとうございます。
Me too. Thanks for being here, Dashiel. Come to Japan, Dan was the second one here. Thank you for the message, Dan. It says, support Tokini Andy and get tons of bonus content at ToKiniAndy.com. Thank you very much for the message, Dan. Dan is a busy man these days, so I really appreciate him. Come and hang out a little bit.
ありがとうございます。
Jasmine for the win says, hey all, hope you're doing amazing. Hope you are too, Jasmine for the win. I'll get back to you, Sarah. Ryu says, ohayo, Ryuji-san. Good to see you. Long time no see.
ジャスミン、久しぶり。
久しぶりですね。Violin guy says, こんばんなは。こんばんなは。
はい、
The bananas are
こんばん
back.
なは。
Malkov Maxim, こんばんは、みなさま。はい、こんばんは。今日は時間少ししかない。大丈夫ですよ、Violin guy. Thanks for stopping by anyway. Lumpy says, hello, 皆さん。What's up? 生茶いるん。S. Irving Beer. Hola. こんばんは。
みんなこんばん
¿Cómo
は。
All right, Sarah Ala Jufaili. Help, guys. I need some advice regarding self-learning Japanese. So, it's hard to answer a question like that without knowing where you're at, like, and what you've learned already, how much time you have each day, what your goals are. So it's hard to sort of just give generalized tips. If you haven't done anything ever, then my first tip is to learn hiragana and katakana. And I got an interesting tip from someone recently. They said that they always recommend that people learn hiragana and katakana together, like at the same time. So when you learn the hiragana and the katakana for you learn them together at the same time. That seems to be pretty helpful for some people. But anyway, you should learn hiragana and katakana first. That's what I definitely suggest doing first. Here is a video that's absolutely beginner Japanese, where to start. So I'm going to drop that in the chat right now. If you haven't done anything yet, that video is a good place to start, and the series that follows that might be good as well to help you get on your journey. You can also check out the Discord. There should be a link in the description. The Discord, there's a bunch of study groups and stuff there. Lots of people helping each other out to continue getting better at Japanese. So that is a few different things you could try. ね。
はい。
はい。
ね。
So, before I get started, this has been really annoying me, and I always forget until the live stream or when I'm filming a video. Check that out. See how that's like shaking around? I'm gonna grab something quick.
ルースなの？
そう、ルース。
あらら。ちなみにルースはゆるいです。
ゆるいって言いますね。日本語だと。Let's see if I have something in this case that can help us out. But I need like a wrench thingy because this isn't going to be able to fit in there. Whatever. I'll do it later. はい。すいませんでした。すごーい says Uncanny Boy. How's it going? Hello, Werber. What's going on? All right, so our first section tonight. It's our first stream in a while. We didn't have a stream last week because we finished lesson 11 last time. That means there's only 4 live streams left. We have this lesson, lesson 12, part 1, and then only 3 live streams left after that until we're done with Quartet entirely. So that's pretty crazy. A lot of you guys have been here since the very beginning. So
ねえ、
お疲れ様。
みんなお疲れ様。
これからも
すごいできるようになっちゃったね、これで。
確かにね。わかることが多くなっているはずですね。
みんなできるようになっちゃったんだ。
はい。
すごい。
All right. Well, why don't we get started? We've got quite a few sentences tonight, so we'll jump into I said X, but in reality, with といっても. Yuki will be back for the dialogue section, or the story section tonight. So we'll be having her read that. よろしくお願いします.
またね。
It feels like my whole life at this point. Yeah, feels like my whole life at this point too. It's been quite a time, but thanks for coming along for it. All right, you guys ready? Let's go ahead and jump into I said X, but in reality, with といっても. So, if you look at this little grammar point, といっても, you might automatically want to translate it as even though I say X, Y, and honestly, that would be fine. But some translations that might fit a little better are although X, Y, or in reality Y, or I said X, but in reality Y. So the way you use this is you just take the short form of a verb and say といっても. So even if I said, or although I said this, or although this, in reality, this other thing. Adjectives you use on their own, といっても. Nodjectives, you could have nodjective だといっても, and that だ is optional. Nouns, you don't need anything in between the noun and といっても. There is a phrase that's covered in Quartet in this lesson called 一口に noun といっても. It covers this phrase, which means one can easily say X, but there are many different types of that thing. Or it's easy to say X, but Y, where Y is something that explains why that thing we're talking about, that noun, is not so simple. There's maybe a bunch of varieties of different things, or there's a lot of steps to do that thing, that noun that we're talking about, so it's very complicated. And this is perfect for that, but it's super specific, so we didn't make a special section for it. We just put 2 or 3 sentences in this section to cover it. Those are going to be the first section, so if what I just said didn't make sense to you yet, wait around for those example sentences, which are coming now. All right, our very first sentence is with 一口に言っても. So 一口に料理と言っても、フレンチや中華などたくさんの種類があります. So it's easy to just say food, but there are many varieties such as French, Chinese, etc. So 一口に料理と言っても. So there's that grammar point, and the noun here is 料理. So you could just say food, or you might just say food, but in reality, フレンチや中華など. So things like that. など is such as French and Chinese and other types of food. たくさんの種類. So many varieties があります. There are. We have many different varieties. So maybe someone just said, I want to get some food. And they said that, right? So you could say, 一口に料理と言っても. You just say food, but there's a million different types. So what do you want? Something like that. So maybe that's the way you could use this. Our next sentence is, 一口に野菜と言っても、種類によって栄養は違います. So even though vegetables all get lumped together, and this is the way that Quartet translates this particular grammar point, all get lumped together is what they say. Nutritional value is different depending on the type. So 一口に野菜と言っても. So even if you just say vegetables, or even though vegetables all get lumped together, 種類によって, so depending on the type, 栄養 is a nutritional value, は違います. That was emphasizing this 違います. It's different. So question time preview. This is not the time to answer this question yet. This is just giving you a peek at what's coming at the end of the section, so you can sort of think about a little bit what kind of sentence you want to make. So the question time for this section is gonna be 一口に何々と言ってもsomething something や something something などがある. So using this 形, using this setup, you're going to make a sentence about something around you. So for example, 一口に乗り物と言っても自転車や新幹線や飛行機などがある. So we don't have that 一口に in blue, but that's the part you're going to be copying as well. So you're just going to replace 乗り物 with something else around you and give us different varieties of it. So maybe this thing is like, I don't know, drinks all get lumped together, but there's Sprite and cranberry juice and all these other things. So a sentence, something like that, is what you're going to be doing for question time when we get there. We have one more 一口 例文 example sentence, and that is 一口に家事と言ってもやることはいろいろあります。So even though we just say housework, in reality, there are many different things to do. Or you could also translate this as, even though housework all gets lumped together, in reality, there are many different things to do. So 一口に家事と言っても So even though it all gets lumped together, housework, or even though we just say housework, やること so things to do は and that's emphasizing what comes next. いろいろあります There's various things. All right, moving on from this little 一口 part and just into regular と言っても we have 出かけると言ってもちょっとそこのスーパーに行ってくるだけだよ So I said I'm going out, but in reality, I'm just going to that supermarket over there. So 出かける so to go out と言っても So I said that I'm going out, or even though I said I'm going out, ちょっと This ちょっと is just softening what comes next. そこのスーパー So that's supermarket over there. に in that direction. 行ってくる So I'm going to go and come back. だけだよ It's just that I'm going to go to that supermarket over there and come back. So even though I said I'm going out, it's just that. 毎回と言っても、その店に行くのは毎日じゃないけどね。So I said every time, but it's not like I go to that shop every day. So 毎回と言っても So even though I say every time, or although I said every time, その店に So in the direction of that shop, 行くのは So the thing which is to go, 毎日じゃないけどね。It's not that I go every day, even though I said every time. すぐと言っても、まだ5分ぐらい時間があります。So, even though I said right away, in reality, we still have about 5 minutes. So, すぐ right away と言っても So, even though I said right away, まだ So, still 5分くらい So, about 5 minutes 時間があります。We have time. 沖縄の冬は寒いと言っても、雪が降るほどではありません。So I said winter is cold in Okinawa, but it's not like it snows. So 沖縄の冬 So the winter in Okinawa は寒い It's cold と言っても So even though I said it's cold in Okinawa, or winter is cold, 雪が降るほど So to the extent that snow falls ではありません It's not to the extent that snow falls. I think this is our last sentence. We have 子供の頃足が速かったと言っても短距離だけですが I said that I was fast when I was a child, but it was only short distance running. So 子供の頃 when I was a kid 足が速かった I was fast. 足が速い means to be fast. It means my feet were fast, literally. But anyway, it just means I was fast と言っても So even though I said I was fast when I was a child, 短距離 is short distance running, like sprinting, 400 meters, 800 meters, things like that. 短距離だけですが It was just short distance running. Which brings us to the dialogue. Let's get Yuki back over here, and she's going to read our story. We have, this week we're back onto not a dialogue, but we have a little story put together, or like a diary entry. Yeah. So, お願いします。
俺はついに社長になった。と言っても、社員は5人しかいないけど、でもこの日をずっと待っていた。20年間他人の会社のために身を削って頑張ってきた。でもこれから自分の会社のために生きていく。頑張るぞい。
Alright, we're gonna have her read it one more time at full speed and then we'll break it down.
頑張るぞいの私のファイトが出なかった。
入ってないよね。はい。
はい。俺はついに社長になった。と言っても社員は5人しかいないけど、でもこの日をずっと待っていた。
I finally became company president. I say that, but in reality, there's only 5 employees, but still. Nevertheless, I waited for this day for ages. So breaking it down, we have 俺は so as for me, ついに so finally, 社長になった。I finally became the company president. 社長になった。と言っても so you can have と言っても at the beginning of a sentence in reference to the last sentence. So that's what's happening here. It's in reference to the last sentence. So even though I say I became company president, と言っても社員は so as for employees 5人しかいない There's only or nothing but 5 employees けど but still でも but or nevertheless この日を so this day and that's the direct object of ずっと待っていた So I waited for this day for ages. That ずっと is for a long time or forever or something like that. ずっと待っていた。
私も社長になりたいな。
ゆきもなりたいんだって。はい。
20年間他人の会社のために身を削って頑張ってきた。でもこれから自分の会社のために生きていく。頑張るぞい。
Yay. For 20 years, I worked hard and endured many hardships for other people's companies. But from now, I will live for the purpose of my own company. I'm going to do my best. So, 20年間, so for 20 years, 他人の会社, 他人 is another person, other people, not with no relation to me, basically. 他人の会社, so someone else's company のために, so for the purpose of someone else's company に身を削って, so 身を削る means to endure some kind of hardship. It means like the literal picture of it is just scraping off yourself, like scraping away yourself for the purpose of something else. In this case, we translated it into enduring hardships for other people's companies. 頑張ってきた. So I worked hard, enduring many hardships for other people's companies. でも, but これから自分の会社, so from now on, my own company のために, for that purpose, 生きていく. I'm going to live for the purpose of my own company. 頑張るぞい. So I'm going to work hard, and that ぞい is like a, it's like a気合. We're putting in, yeah, 気合. What's 気合 in English? I can't remember. It's like a, what's 気合 in English? Enthusiasm? 気合? Putting in,
違うかな。
it's like oh yeah, they just translated it as a yell or a scream, but yeah, getting energy behind it. Thank you so much for becoming a ToKini Senpuki. I cannot read Korean, but thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into question time.
一口に〇〇と言っても四角四角や三角三角などがあるの形であなたの周りのものを説明してください。
So please explain something around you that often gets lumped together with other things, or maybe you have a, yeah, you get what I'm saying. But anyway, we're going to use 一口に何々と言っても, and you're going to give examples of that thing. So for example,
一口に乗り物と言っても自転車や新幹線や飛行機などがある。
So even though they all get lumped together, methods of transportation there are things such as 自転車, so a bicycle, や shinkansen, so a bullet train, や hikoki など, so planes and things like that, がある. And that や, by the way, it's the inexhaustive list. This is not an exhaustive list. This is just examples of a list of different items. That's what we use や for. It means and, but it's when there's more things that we're not going to say all of. Right, the next one is?
一口にパソコンといっても大きい画面のものやすごくスペックが低いものなどがある。
So even though we lump all things called computers together, there are ones with big screens and ones with extremely low specifications. There's all kinds of things like that. So how about you guys? I think we've got a lot going on in chat here. Oh no, not that much. Okay. Feels like my whole life at this point. Okay, yeah, we got that. こんばんは. I am so sorry I can't read your name, but I wish I could. Maybe someone can here, but thank you so much for becoming a member. Yokoso says Yuki, Sprydon the Wonder Worker. Recently, 4 days ago, found you thanks to an old Reddit thread. Leaving for Nagoya in a few months. Thank you for the valuable lessons. You're very welcome, Spiridon. Thanks for stopping by to let us know. I don't know if you're still here, but appreciate that.
ありがとうございます。
Cue time from Lumpy!
はい、バイオリン街じゃない？
バイオリン街は先だったね。はい、お願いします。
一口にクラシックな音楽といってもバロックやロマンチックの時代などがある。バロックやロマンチックの種類じゃない？
時代はあるんだよね。そういう音楽が流行ってたっていうか出てたのが。はい。
流行った時代があるってこと？
流行ったっていうか、まあそうだね。
そういう種類
出てきた時はその名前についていると思います。
なるほど。
だからバロックやロマンチックの時代などがある。そうだね。Just need the ga particle after that など and you're good to go. Nice. Yeah, there's lots of different types.
そうなんだ。勉強になりました。
ルンピーさん。
はい。友達は時間がありませんと言っても一人でイベントに行きました。
Oh my god!
多分
You want to say 一人で Yeah, the only thing you need to add there is the day particle after 一人, Lumpy. 一人で So Lumpy said, my friend said they didn't have, even though my friend said they didn't have time.
うん
They went to an event alone. Oh
ど
no.
ういうことなんだ
Yuji, yeah, a cheer might work
確かに
for
ね
for
気合いだよ
kiai,
ね
How's it going, Dr. Sun Tzu? Hello,
サン
Andy-san.
ツ
They say
ー
Senzu.
あドクターサンツーさんなんだ
I wonder if that says my friend had no time, so I went. Ah, okay. ちょっと違う. So, or if you're more likely to understand is my friend had no time, so she. There's no so here. So what the to ittemo means is that even though they said this, or we said this, or this, but in reality this. So what you said was my friend didn't have time. They said they didn't have time. So even though they said they didn't have time, they went to the event alone. So your friend sounds really mean, is what it sounds like.
そうだね
Dr. Sun Tzu says, I'm currently learning Japanese by binging your videos and also watching Hiroyuki. Oh, for complex vocab. Nice. Yuki likes Hiroyuki as well. She
あ
watches a
そ
lot
う
of
なの
Hiroyuki.
ひろゆき見てるんだね
ToKini Andy plus Hiroyuki. That's a fun pattern. Or a fun method. I like it. Keep it up, Sun Tzu. I'm glad we're able to help you out a bit.
はい
Ginger Robot.
ね
Thank you for the good videos. Oh, I see. Wow. I never would have guessed that. Ginger Robot.
ジンジャー
You're
ロボット
very
って
welcome,
言うんだ
Ginger Robot.
よろしくお願いし
よろしくお願
ます
いします. Thanks for becoming a member.
はい
Ryuji's Q time is...
一口に本と言ってもでも辞書や小説などがある
Tashikani. So you don't need that demo because it's already the temo. The temo is that demo.
そう
Right?
です
So
ね
ittemo, the demo is in the temo. That makes sense? Demo is already part of it. The demo. So you just said basically demo.
そうだね
So
打棒
even though
で
they're
も
all lumped together, even though. So even though they're all lumped together, even though. Jisho.
うん
Shosetsu. So very close. Just remove that demo and your sentence is fine. So even though all books get lumped together, there's things like dictionaries and novels.
はい
You're welcome, Limpy. Malkov Maxim has a Q time. Oh,
はいマ
似て
ルコブ
るもんだ
ありがとうございます一口に本と言っても雑誌や教科書や漫画などがある
perfect, Malkov.
いいですね
So even though books are all lumped together, or we say books, there's magazines, there's textbooks, and there are manga and things like that.
はい
Simon, welcome to the stream.
ようこそ一口にギターと言ってもエレキやアコースティックやベースなどがある。
確かにね、ベースもギターだよね、本当は。
そうだよね。
ベースギターはある。全部のベースはギターではないよね。
そうなの、ベースギター。
だってタッチのベースはギターじゃないよね。
ドゥルルルのところ。
立ってるやつはベースギターじゃないよね。こういうやつはギターになる。
そうだったんだ。
そうだと思う。
そうなの
So there are bass guitars, but there's also standing bass, and that wouldn't be called a guitar, I think, right? So anyway, yeah. The only thing you want to change there is a cos
アコースティック。
チックじゃない。
アコー伸ばし句号こうに変えるだけで OK だよ。そうそれそれ。
Very good. Acoustic. And you're good to go. Question.
はい。
Speaking of which, are there instances in which といっても and plain demo, edo are interchangeable? Or is there some differentiation in meaning? The big difference here is we're combining it with the say. So it's to, the particle that is the quotation particle, and you, and we're combining that with temo. So if you weren't talking about someone saying something, then you would use temo or demo, right? So チキンを食べても太らない or something like that. Even if I eat chicken, I don't get fat. Or チキンを食べてもお腹いっぱいにならない or something like that. Even if I eat chicken, I don't get full. Just as a basic example. We're not using say there. It's just a regular verb to eat. Then you use temo. But this is a little bit different in that it's combined with the verb to say. And it means, it can just mean even though I said this, or even though I say this. But it can be a little bit more general in that it can just mean although this is the case. Like someone might not have necessarily said a certain thing, but generally speaking, it looks like といっても if you look at all our sentences. Someone has said something. And we're saying even though that is the case, with 一口と言っても on its own is a bit of a grammar point. And it means even though all these things get lumped together, even though people say this word easily, is what this means. So you couldn't just say 乗り物でも something like and then give examples of it. It makes less sense than 一口に乗り物と言っても. That can be translated as even though things you ride on, vehicles all get lumped together, is what we're translating it as. But literally, if you were to translate it backwards, it would be even though we say in one word, which means easily, vehicles, something, something. So there's an implication of speech here being had. So that's the big difference here between temo and edo, I think. Violent Guy says, question, although I forgot the ga between nado and aru, would it be okay in casual speech without ga? Yeah, I think people would pretty much understand what you're saying without a problem. ここね。一口にクラシックな音楽といっても、バロックやロマンチックなの時代などある。ががなくても、喋ってるだけだったらみんなわかるよね。はい、yep. Everyone would understand fine, even if you didn't have that ga there. In speech, just in writing, you want to make sure you have it. That's all. Yeah, good job. That does answer my question. Sweet. I'm glad I was able to answer it. A bit roundabout, but I got there in the end.
そっか。テモとエドは even だけだもんね。
そう、just even ね。
今回はと言ってもというフレーズですもんね。
So even though it is said that, or even though I said that, sometimes it's even though I said it, sometimes it's even though it is said that. It can have that sort of nuance, depending on the context, of course. All right, you guys ready to move on to gachi? Let's do it.
はい。
お願いします. We'll get Yuki back over here for the continuation of our diary entry, I guess. Okay. Our next section is tend to with gachi. This is a fun one. You actually hear it a lot. You hear it a lot in slang nowadays, and that's used in a completely different way, and it probably has no relation to this grammar point, but I'll mention it just in case. The slang one is just, it's like maji. It's used like maji in slang among a lot of high schoolers these days. Gachi ikitakunai toka they'll say. I really don't want to go. So gachi, be careful. It's used in slang among high schoolers these days to mean maji. But anyway, that is not the one we're covering tonight. The one we're covering tonight is a little bit, not formal, but it's a little bit different. So it's a fun suffix that means tend to or have a tendency to do something, depending on what the verb is that it's attached to or the noun. It points out that the thing you're talking about happens many times or has happened many times. It can't just be something that you did once. It's something that must have happened many times or has a tendency to happen a lot. So it's usually only used, this is an important point, guys, it's usually only used for bad things. Things that you'd think of in a negative manner, things you don't want to happen. So gachi isn't used for like, for example, I have an example sentence here. 個人に寄付しがちです, which means I tend to donate to orphanages. You would not say that sentence. That's a good thing, right? It's not a negative, so you would not want to use gachi for something like that. It's also used with nouns that describe some kind of event which can happen a lot, which may be viewed as negative. So there are nouns that are used, but they have to be viewed as negative. And some examples of that would be like byoki, so sickness, or rusu, absence, or kumori, so cloudy. When it's cloudy, nobody really wants it to be cloudy. Some people do. But you could use gachi with that because in general, people think of that as a negative. So you could use kumori gachi. It has a tendency to be cloudy on in May or something in Japan, is a way you could use gachi. Let's go ahead and jump into the example sentences. We have 食べた後は眠くなりがちです. So I tend to get sleepy after I eat. So most people don't like to get sleepy after they eat, at least not if they're at work. If it's like Thanksgiving in the United States or something, you just ate a bunch of turkey, maybe it feels good to get sleepy. But in general, most people don't love to get sleepy after they've eaten. Depending. But anyway, so that's why you could use it here. 食べた後, so after I've eaten wa, and this is emphasizing what comes next. 眠くなり, so 眠くなる means to become sleepy. Gachi, 眠くなりがち. So remember, if we look back up here, we use the mas stem of whatever verb it is that we're using. So 眠くなりがち, I tend to become sleepy. です. Next one is 暇ができるとお菓子を食べてしまいがちです. So when I find free time, I unfortunately tend to eat sweets. So most people, maybe this person doesn't really want to eat a bunch of sweets, but they have a tendency to, this te shimao is implying an unfortunateness to it, or doing it completely, and usually sort of in a negative way. they don't want to do that, but they tend to do it. So 暇ができると. So when, that と, I get free time. お菓子を, so お菓子 is sweets, を食べてしまいがち. 食べてしまいます would be I completely eat or I unfortunately eat. 食べてしまいがち, I have a tendency to eat or I tend to eat sweets. Yes. Question time preview. This is just giving an example of what's coming at the end of the section so you can sort of start thinking about what kind of sentence you want to make. This one is 本当は何々した方がいいと思っているけどしてしまいがちなことは何ですか? So, really, you should do this, or you think you should do this, but you always tend to do this. What is that thing? For example, 本当はお菓子を減らした方がいいと思っているけど食べてしまいがちです。So, in reality, 本当はお菓子を減らした方がいいshould lessen sweets, which this means should lessen eating sweets と思っている I think, but けど食べてしまいがちです I tend to unfortunately eat them. So you can basically copy 本当は and then put the thing in 何々をした方がいいと思っているけど so した方がいいと思っている you can copy that. So 本当は something something してした方がいいと思っているけど you can copy all that and then just put in the thing that you know you should do and then what you do instead. 食べてしまいがちです So that's what you're going to do when we get to that point. Tom-chan, thank you so much for being a member for 8 months. こんばんは Good to see you. Thanks for being here. All right. 雨の日は道が渋滞しがちだから早めに家を出ます So on rainy days, the roads tend to be congested, so I will leave the house earlier than usual. So breaking it down, we have 雨の日は So the topic here is rainy days, 雨の日は and that emphasizes this next part. 道が So the subject is the road. The road is the thing that is 渋滞しがち. So 渋滞 is to be congested or to have traffic. しがち So it's actually a pseudo verb. So 渋滞しがちだから it tends to be crowded or congested. So 早めに means earlier than usual. 早めに家を So from my house 出ます I will leave. 失敗 Is it like raining really hard suddenly? Suddenly started pouring rain, I think. Anyway, 失敗したときはつい言い訳を言ってしまいがちです So when I fail at something, I tend to make excuses unconsciously. So 失敗したときは So when I failed, つい言い訳 So つい it means unconsciously or unintentionally. 言い訳 So 言い訳 is an excuse. It's an M1 word. を That's the direct object of 言ってしまいがちです I unfortunately tend to make excuses unconsciously. ゲームのコントローラーが使えないことは初心者にありがちです So being unable to use a game controller is a tendency beginners tend to have. Alright, so ゲームのコントローラー So that's a game's controller. が That's the subject. 使えないこと So the thing which is being unable to use a game controller は That's emphasizing this next part. 初心者に So in the direction of beginners ありがちです They have that thing. They have that thing. ありがち They tend to have that thing, which is being unable to use game controllers. 好きなものが食事に出ると食べ過ぎてしまいがちです So when things I like are served in a meal, I tend to unfortunately eat too much. So 好きなもの things I like が That's the subject. 食事に出ると So when they come out in the meal 食事に出ると食べ過ぎてしまいがちです。食べ過ぎる is to eat too much. しまう So 食べ過ぎてしまう is unfortunately eat too much. がちです。食べ過ぎてしまいがちです。I tend to eat too much unfortunately. A ちゃんは小さい時病気がちな子だった。So here we have a noun, 病気. 病気 is obviously usually a negative, and that's why, and it can happen frequently. So that's why we can use がち with it. So A ちゃんは小さい時 So when A ちゃん was small, 病気がちな子だった So she was a kid that tended to get sick. 病気がち means that probably in a month she was sick more than she wasn't sick. That's what this がち is implying. Sick a lot. So 病気がちな子 She was a kid that was tended to be sick だった That brings us to the dialogue. Let's get Yuki back over here. She's going to read it for us. お願いします。
はい。
Mortarin, how's it going? お願いします。
オフィスがない小さい会社を持ついいところは自分の時間に合わせて働けるところだ。俺はどうしても寝坊しがちだから8時や9時にオフィスに出勤するのがとても大変だった。今は家から10時や11時くらいから働き始められる。
Hey, let's go ahead and break it down. Yuki's going to read it at full speed once, then we'll break it down.
オフィスがない小さい会社を持ついいところは自分の時間に合わせて働けるところだ。
The good part about having a small company without an office is that you can work on your own time. So, office がない, so a place with no office, 小さい会社, so a company with no office that's small. を持つ, so having a company that's small with no office. いいところ. So this whole thing is modifying the いいところ. So office がない小さい会社を持ついいところ. So it's all modifying ところ. So the thing or the place, which is good about a company that is small with no office is, while emphasizing what comes next, 自分の時間に, so in the direction of your own time, 合わせて, so you can sort of you can, this is all going to mean you can work on your own time, but you sort of match it to your own time. 自分の時間に合わせて働けるところだ. It's a place where you can work on your own time. はい、next part.
俺はどうしても寝坊しがちだから8時や9時にオフィスに出勤するのがとても大変だった。
No matter what, I tend to oversleep. So it's super difficult to show up for work at the office at 8 or 9.This person doesn't like mornings. So, 俺は, as for me, emphasizing this next part, どうしても. So, no matter what, どうしても. 寝坊しがち. 寝坊する means to oversleep. 寝坊しがちだから, I tend to oversleep. So, 8時や9時に, so at 8 or 9に, オフィスに, in the direction of the office, 出勤する. 出勤する means to show up at work, or to show up at work. するのが, so the thing which is that, とても大変だった. It was super difficult.
今は家から10時や11時くらいから働き始められる。
Now I can start working from home around 10 or 11 o'clock. So 今は as for now. 家から from home 10時や so something like 10 11時くらい so around 10 or 11から働き始められる I can start working. Right, that's the end. Question time for this section is, it's not the end yet, there's one more section. お願いします。
本当は〇〇した方がいいと思っているけど、してしまいがちなことは何ですか？
So really you think you should really be doing this thing, but you end up doing this. はい、for example.
本当はお菓子を減らした方がいいと思っているけど、食べてしまいがちです。
Truthfully, I should be lessening the amount of sweets I eat, I think, but I tend to eat them.Unfortunately. はい、next one is
本当はタバコをやめた方がいいと思っているけど吸ってしまいがちです。
Truthfully, I should quit smoking, I think. But I tend to smoke. That's it. All right. So how about you guys? Let's go ahead and check out the comments. We have 食べた後で眠くなり
あ、ねえねえ前
方
の
向です。傾向です。そうだね。はい、前の何
セクションの Q タイムがルンピーが言ってくれたと思うんだよ。
あ、はい、わかりました。すいません。お久しぶり、マリーナラサス。お願いします。
はい、お久しぶりです。ルンピーの Q タイムね。魚が好きじゃないと言っても、昨日は1キロ半寿司を食べた。
すごい。
おー。
魚が好きやない。好きやない。
大阪人。
かわいい。大阪。と言っても、the small two after the e ね。と言っても、昨日は1キロ半の半も come after キロ。1キロ半寿司を食べた。大変だ。Nice job.
どうでした？美味しいよ。美味しかったかな？
Tom Chan, thank you so much.
ありがとう。
Appreciate that.
Tom-chan.
Thank you for being a member for 8 months. Appreciate that.
Keep it
Thank you
up.
so much.
Keep it up.
Try. Keep it up. Keep it up. Keep it up. Pump the iron. Thank you so much.
ありがとうございます、トムちゃん。
俺も食べた後は眠くなりがち。俺もそうです。食べた後で 眠くなり傾向です。Correct.
あ、それはま
あ、
そう、なりがちの to tend to と、傾向はただのナウンだから tendency だけだもんね。だから傾向があるだと have a tendency で言えるから、眠くなる傾向がありますだったら OK かな。
傾向があります。眠くなる傾向があります。So the 眠くなる will be modifying the 傾向。So 眠くなる傾向があります。Yes. OK. モータリン、おはようございます。
おはようございます。
メキシコからすごいありがとうございます。九州 Trail, how's it going? Good to see you, man.
はい、ありがとうございます。
ゆきさん、are you a teacher as well? She is. She's part of this YouTube channel.
ゆきさんも、
She does all of the corrections for the reading and writing sections on ToKini and she writes a bunch of stories for our website as well. And she also helps me check everyone's pronunciation and their speaking practice in the challenges for each of the lessons on the website. So yes, she does a lot working here with us.
ありがとうございます。私は今 ALT ですと言おうと思ったのに
ALT か。
ALT ですと言おうと思ったのに。ALT って通じる？
Appreciate that, 海へ行こう。You're very welcome and thanks for stopping down.
ありがとうございます。
Spirit on the Wonder Worker. How the heck does this channel not have 3 times more subscribers? These lessons are literally super valuable. I appreciate that. I think there's like 5 different reasons why, actually. So we haven't been around for that long. That's 1. 2, we've been covering intermediate material, which has a much smaller audience for a very long time now. We've been doing this for over 6 months. We're almost done with the intermediate stuff, but we've been doing it for over 6 months. So there's a much smaller number of people who it's relevant to. So that's one reason. Another reason is we just started a couple years ago and I never edited a video in my life until then. So we're getting better and better as we go. Thanks to, all of your guys' support. So appreciate that. Thank you so much, Tam-chan, again. Appreciate that. Okina hito. Tall person? Not me.
あ、でも
Talking about someone else かな？
大きな人だよ。
確かに大きな人になったね。あれ？ I must have missed something in that conversation. 背が高い says more daddy. Might fit better. Alright, we've got a cue time from Malkov Maxim. お願いします。
はい。マルコブのね。本当は早く寝た方がいいと思っているけど、夜更かししがちです。
そう、you can use it as a する verb. 夜更かししがちです。するで使えるよね。する verb. そう、夜更かししがちです。本当は早く寝た方がいい。So I said した that you could copy that, but what I should have mentioned is that you want to put the past tense, short past tense of whatever verb you're using. So if it's a する verb, it can be した方がいい。But if it's a regular verb, then you want to put the short past tense of that. So 寝た方がいいと思っているけど、夜更かししがちです。So I have a tendency to, is that stay up all night, right? Yeah, staying up late or staying up all night. Fair enough.
ね、惜しい。
I like to stay up all night, but I should go to bed sooner earlier.
ちょっと、
はい。
早く寝る方、でも寝た方がいいだね。
寝た方がいいんですよ。
寝た方がいいですね。はい。
リュウジさん、本当は、お願いします。
本当は日本語を勉強した方がいいと思っているけど、勉強しないがちだとは言わないんだよね。
Yeah, we don't usually use negatives ね。You will only use the must them, unfortunately. It seems like you should be able to. 勉強しないがち。Feels like you should be able to say that.
例えば、サボりがちとかは OK です。
You can use a different verb that sort of means not study. So サボる is to not study or to slack off. So サボりがちです。So you could say something like that. サボりがち。You don't have to use the katakana, but that's one way you could use it. But yeah, for some reason you can't use it with negatives. Though it feels like you should, but you can't. 残念ながら時間だ。Violin guy, see you later. Thanks for hanging out. Have a good night.
来てくれてありがとうございます。
また今度みんなバイバイ。See you later. いえいえ。
お寿司楽 お寿司楽しんで、もう楽しんだよね。
そう
もう
だと思います。
楽しんだね。
あれ、それはバイオリン街じゃなかったよ。
あれ、
ルンピだった、
バイオリン街も食べたとか言ってなかった。
バイオリン街も食べたんだ。はいはいはい。
わかんないけど、
なるほど、
バイ
I
オリ
missed a
ン
bunch.
街も食べたとか言ってたと思う。
You are the only person who has ever said my name correctly. I'm genuinely impressed. Woo! I got it. Right on the Wonder Worker.
すげえ名前だ。私言えないやつだ。それ
Yuki said your name is amazing. She can't say it. All right. Those are good, guys. Sweet. Let me get a drink of water before we move on to the next section.
そういえば外雨降ってました。
Could you use this to talk about a past tendency, like しがちだった? Yes. Yeah, you could. So we actually had an example sentence like that a couple sections ago. Let's see if we can find that. A ちゃんは小さい時病気がちだった。You could get rid of this なこだった and you could just say がちだった。That would be absolutely fine. We complicated it a little bit more saying she was a child that was tended to get sick a lot. But you don't need that necessarily. So you could just say がちだった。That would be fine.
そう、ガチだったっていう時はもう今はインプルーブしてる
Yeah, now you're improved. Now you're improved. But then it was a negative thing that happened a lot. So 前はタバコをやめたかったけどどうしても
違うよ。前はタバコを吸いがち休憩時間に吸いがち。
I'm not there yet. I didn't finish my sentence yet.
はい。
そう、前はタバコをやめた方がいいと思ったけど、どうしても吸いしまいがちだった。
吸ってしまいがちだった。
吸ってしまいがちだった。そう、
はい、
そう。はい。すいません。もう終わってなかった。Could you use this to... はい。Bye bye. See you later. はい。See you. You go. How's it going? Took me a while to figure that one out. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to... Based on N plus X. Dacia might have a queue time. If we don't get to you in time, Dacia will go ahead and answer your queue time at the end of this section. This section is a little bit shorter than the last one. So let's go ahead and move on to that. Oh, wait, let's answer Yuji's question first. Can the form gachi da be negated as something like gachi janai or gachi de wa nai as benkyou suru gachi janai? I tended not to say. No, you can't do that. That wouldn't quite work.
あともう一つ、勉強をするバーブのそうそうそう。
しがち。It has to be the mas stem. But no, you couldn't do that to negate it, to say you weren't. I don't think you can do that to say I didn't tend to do that thing. It would be kind of unnecessary. Like grammatically speaking, I don't think there's a problem with it, but I just don't think it would be used. You just wouldn't.
そう、勉強するっていうことがネガティブじゃないんだよね、きっと。なんとなく。
なんか It's only used with negative things. So you can't use it to say I didn't do a positive thing. You can't say that. You can only say it to say I had a tendency to do this negative thing. So you won't use it to say I tend to not do this positive thing. Unfortunately, yeah, this just can't be used for that. Dashiel Baker. Okay, we did make it in time for Dashiel's Q time. Nice.
はい。
本当は
ゲーム使用時間を減らした方がいいと思っているけど、プレイしてしまいがちです。
そうだよね。まあ俺はしないんだけどね。昔はそうだったかも。はい。In reality, I know or I think I should lessen my gameplay time, but I tend to play. Anyway, the only thing you want to change there is 本当はゲーム使用時間を減らした方がいいと思っているけど You want to put that wall particle. Oh, we have one more cue time from Loopy. 本当は
本当はよく食べた方がいいけど、倦怠感になりがち。倦怠感がちになるほど。倦怠感になるが多分。
You become that feeling. So 倦怠感になる。So 倦怠感になりがち。
だったかな。
いや。
なる。
なるはいらないかな。倦怠感になりがちです。だと思う。Big brain today I learned for gachi. Thank you, Andy-san. You're very welcome, Dr. Sun Tzu. All right.
その勉強するね、何があれなのかわかんない。ネガ
ティブな行為だけに使えますか？ Yes。なるほどです。大丈夫だと思うよ。
本当？
なんかそのなぜかわからないけど、そうですよね。それでいいと思いますよ。
勉強とか努力とかは必ずいいことにつながっちゃうから、多分言えないんだよね。
Because studying and things like that will be a positive, seen as a positive. You just can't. I should eat much, but actually I tend to feel sick by that. Okay. 本当はよく食べた方がいいと思うけど、なんだっけ、その漢字読めないな。倦怠感になりがち。Yeah, that's fine, I think. Good night, come to Japan, Dan. Thanks for hanging out. Have a good week. Hang in there. I know you're busy. So I appreciate it. Thank you, man.
お疲れ様です。
Come to Japan, Dan says, even so, support ToKini Andy and get tons of bonus content at ToKiniAndy.com from both myself, Yuki, and Mami-san.
はい。
お願いします。はい。All right, let's go ahead and move on to the final section tonight, which is based on N, X, with noun に応じて。Oh, did I just hit the back button? Oh, hopefully that's okay. All right, moving on. Okay, so you just use this with a noun. So X に応じて Y is generally used to state that a change or a decision happens or will be made based on X, what comes before noun に応じてね. So X is usually a noun, but of course there are situations where X might be a nominalized phrase, of course. As with all of these things that just say noun, sometimes you can have a phrase before it that's just nominalized with koto or noga or something like that. Quartet translates noun ni ojite as depending on X, Y, or according to X, Y. And they're fine, but the English based on X, Y seems to feel a little bit more natural to me. When I was translating all the sentences, I kept finding myself translating them as based on X, Y. But you could also translate it as Quartet does, depending on X, Y, or according to X, Y. Those are fine as well. So one thing to mention lastly is that you can modify a noun directly with this by changing the te form of ojite to ojita. So for example, 気分に応じた食事. So a meal based on one's mood. So you're describing the meal with the verb ojiru and just making it ojite. So noun ni ojite is generally going to be marking the first part of the sentence and then the next thought about it. So doing something, changing something based on this, or doing something based on this noun thing, right? But you can modify a noun directly to say that thing is based on this. So a meal based on my mood. ね。気分に応じた食事. So let's go ahead and jump into the example sentences. We have 人数に応じて会場を選びましょう. So let's choose the venue based on the number of people. 人数に応じて, so based on the number of people. 会場 is the venue. を選びましょう. Let's choose. 状況に応じてお客様に対応します. So I will deal with the customer based on the circumstances. So 状況に応じて, so based on the circumstances. お客様に, so in the direction of the customer or the guest, 対応します. I will deal with them. So let's go ahead and check out the question time preview. Once again, you don't have to answer this right away. It's just so you can get an idea of what's coming at the end of the section. So, あなたはバーベキューパーティーのホストになりました. You've become the host of a barbecue party. 何々に応じて, so based on something something, どんなもの、ことが必要ですか? So what do you need, or what things do you need, or what things do you need based on something. So for example, 人数に応じてテーブルや椅子が必要です. So based on the number of people, we need tables and chairs. Or we need tables and chairs based on the number of people. If you read it backwards here. What do you need as the host of the barbecue party? I wonder. Based on what? All right, the next one is 子供は年齢に応じて遊びや興味が変わります. So the play and interests of children changes based on their age. So 子供は, as for kids, 年齢に応じて, so based on their age. 遊びや, so things like play, and 興味が, their interests が, that's the subject, 変わります. It changes. So you're generally talking about changes or making some kind of changes or performing some action that results in change based on something else. 運動会は天候に応じて 延期することがあります。So there are cases where sports day is postponed due to the weather. So 運動会は as for sports day. 天候に応じて so based on the weather or according to the weather. 延期する so postpone. ことがあります。There are cases where that happens. そのツアー会社は私たちの希望に応じた旅行プランを考えてくれました。So that tour company, it thought up a plan based on our wishes for us. Based on our wishes, for us. So そのツアー会社は so as for that tour company, 私たちの希望 so our hopes or our wishes に応じた旅行プラン So we're directly modifying 旅行プラン here. The plan for our trip. And what is that trip? It's a trip based on our wishes or desires. 私たちの希望に応じた旅行プラン So that whole thing is just describing that noun. を考えてくれました So they thought of that for us. That brings us to the dialogue for this section. Let's get Yuki back over here. She wasn't gone for long. Woo woo.
はーい。
あ、
はい。
ごめんね、Aki or よかったです。もうわかんない、どっちか。You're welcome or I'm sorry. I don't know which. Say is generally used as a negative. So maybe it's my fault. Yeah, if it's my fault, I'm sorry. But if you're happy about it, you're welcome. Either way.
はい。
Welcome to stream, Aki. はい、お願いします。
もちろん人によって働きやすい時間は違う。でも同じ会社で働いている人がいるからたまに同じ時間に仕事をしなければならない。ミーティングをしなければならない場合、全員が働いている時間に応じてミーティングの時間を決める。この会社ではみんなの出勤の時間が違うから合わせるのが難しいこともあるけど、このまま続けていきたいと思う。
All right, let's go ahead and break it down together. You can read it at full speed and then I'll break it down.
もちろん人によって働きやすい時間は違う。でも同じ会社で働いている人がいるからたまに同じ時間に仕事をしなければならない。
So, of course, depending on the person, the time easiest for them to work is different. But there are people working at the same company. So sometimes we have to do work at the same time together. So we're getting down もちろん, of course. 人によって. So depending on the person. So this よって is a little bit different. Just a little bit different than 応じて. And I believe I put some notes about that so I wouldn't forget the exact differences. Maybe I didn't. I can't remember the exact difference. But よって, I believe you can't use よって for an action you're gonna perform, I believe. So like I'm gonna make a decision based on the number of people. You don't use によって for that, I believe. I believe this let me get the book quick because there's something that I forgot about this. Sorry. によって is slightly different in that what was it again? I can't remember off the top of my head.
これや。
Right. Hey. So that was the difference. So noun によって can only take in transitive verbs that result in a change or something. You can't use, I was right. You can't use actions that you're going to do after noun によって, which you can do after noun に応じて. So based on the amount of people, I'm going to do this. 人に応じて、人数に応じて something する. You can't use によって for that. によって will only describe something. It only describes a thing. It's not describing an action that's going to take place. So もちろん人によって So depending on the person 働きやすい時間は違う So you can use 違う because that's just stating a state of being, right? It's different based on the person. So によって is fine for that. に応じて would also be fine here is what I wanted to mention. You could also say もちろん人に応じて働きやすい時間は違う You could actually say that. But now によって is a little bit better here because we're just talking about a difference. But anyway, でも but 同じ会社で at the same company 働いている人がいるから there are people working at the same company. So たまに sometimes 同じ時間に at the same time 仕事を so work を that's a direct object しなければならない We must work at the same time. Together is what is implied here.
ミーティングをしなければならない場合、全員が働いている時間に応じてミーティングの時間を決める。
So when we have to do a meeting, we decide on the meeting time based on a time everyone is working. So meeting is just meeting. をしなければならない場合. So in the case that we have to have a meeting, 全員が, so everyone, and that's the subject, 働いている時間, so a time when everyone is working, に応じて, so based on a time when everyone is working, ミーティングの時間, so the time for the meeting, を決める. So we decide on the time for the meeting based on a time that everyone is working. This is a situation where you could not use によって because there's an action happening here. 決める, we decide on. So you can't use によって here. You have to use に応じて. So that's the difference between those two. That's the main thing I wanted to point out with this little dialogue here.
この会社ではみんなの出勤の時間が違うから合わせるのが難しいこともあるけど、このまま続けていきたいと思う。
At this company, everyone's working time is different, so there are also times when it is difficult to connect, but I think I want to continue in this way. Alright, 社長。この会社では、at this company, and the wa here is emphasizing this, みんなの出勤の時間, everyone's time coming to work is different. が違うから、so, 合わせるのが難しいこともある. There are also cases where it's difficult to connect, or to connect as in time, find a time to meet with each other. 合わせるのが難しいこともあるけど, there are cases where that is the case, but このまま as it is 続けていきたい. I want to continue と思う, I think. That brings us to question time.
あなたはバーベキューパーティーのホストになりました。〇〇に応じてどんなもの、ことが必要ですか?
So you are the host for a barbecue. Based on something something, what are some things that you need, or what kind of things do you need? For example,
人数に応じてテーブルや椅子が必要です。
so we need tables and chairs based on the number of people. Or,
天候に応じて日にちの変更が必要です。
so we may need to change the date based on the weather. All right, so how about you guys? You are the party hosts. Let's check out what we missed while I was gone, or while I was talking. I'm watching アルプスの少女ハイツ. Haiji, sorry. I'm learning a lot from it. Nice. I've never heard of that one. Is it good?
うん。
アルプスのそんなに人気なやつなんだ？
うん。
アルプスの少女ハイジって山登りの話？アルプスって。
あ、山登りの話じゃないんですけど、
あ、そっか。
女の子の話、
はい、
山の上で
やっぱり山の上。
そう、山の上で生活するの、
はい、
おじいさんと一緒にね。
Nice, okay. Hi guys, discovered your channels yesterday. Loving the content. Thank you very much, High Carb Diabetic. Welcome to the stream. I don't know if you're still here, but thank you for stopping by to let us know. Appreciate that. And once again, you're welcome or Sariaki. Thanks for being here. Michael さん、久しぶりに使いそうな文法が登場した。ありがとうございます、マイケル。Welcome to the stream.
よかったです。あら、海へ行こうさんが。あれ、海へ行こうさん。
34, yeah, more starting. I'm 35, so super, super close. Just turned 35, so.
おー、じゃあ、セイムジェネレーションです。
そう、same generation. ルンピさん has a cute time.
はい。彼はひどい人です。えお彼はひどい人です。に応じて友達が
I see what you're saying, Anna. I see what you're saying. Once again here, you're going to want to use with だから is what you want to say here. 彼はひどい人だから友達が少ない. So he is a bad person or a terrible person, so he has no friends is what you want to say here. Based on, according to is maybe easier then if based on makes you think of that. So according to or depending on something. I thought based on would make more sense there, but perhaps that's why Quartet decided to go with depending on, because it makes it a little bit more clear that it's different from dakara. So based on something, based on the number of people, we're going to do this, right? So you can just have a noun there. So based on this noun, we do this. So that doesn't quite work. We'll give you another shot. Cue time from Dr. Sun Tzu.
はい。物語に応じて、実現しないですかな。でもね、それは物語によって。
そうだよね。
真実じゃないですかな。
Mm.
これは
So
よっ
the
てし
thing
か。
the thing that generally comes after に応じて, I think I mentioned this early on, is generally going to be like a change or something that you do that changes the situation. So just describing a state of being, there's no change in, you're not going to generally use に応じて for that. You're going to use によって. So based on the story, sometimes it's true or not. I don't know if that's what you want to say there, but let us know what you want to actually say in the English and we'll correct it more with that because it's going to depend on what you actually are going for with that sentence. But I'm pretty sure に応じて doesn't quite fit for this one. We'll help you out with whatever you're going for there. Have a good day, guys. Unfortunately, I'm leaving. I won't miss your next live. Bye, Mortadine. Thanks for stopping by. I don't know if you're still here, but thank you. Anyway.
はい。
海へ行こう。
バイバイ。
Question time.
はい。料理する力に応じて美味しい食べ物を料理するかも。そうです。力っていう意味はスキルでも入ってます。
そうだね。入ってます。はい。
はい。料理かもなんだ。文章は OK です。
はい、OK. So depending on their power of cooking, their cooking power, their skill, 美味しい食べ物を料理するかも. So they might make good, delicious food based on that. Possibly.
ね。
必要か。
かもか。
待ってくださいまし。
待ってくださいまし。はい。はい。
来客の好み、OK。
来客の好みに応じてさまざまなソースを用意することが必要です。
おー、素晴らしい。Perfect. Get your barbecue down there, buddy. Okay, so based on the likes and dislikes of the person who's coming, the customer, the guest, various sauces we will need to prepare. Perfect, Michael. Malkov Maxim.
はい。食生活に応じて肉と野菜を買っておきます。
Oh, nice. Based on eating habits, I'll buy meat and vegetables in preparation for that. Perfect. Nice usage of teoku there.
いいね。
Still here. This is a lot of fun to watch. I don't understand a lot as started learning recently. No worries. High carb diet. There's actually quite a few people here who hang out who are way back on, earlier beginner material and just try to pick up what they can. And we have a lot of fun with those guys as well. So thank you for all of you being here. Appreciate that.
大丈夫だよ。
はい、全然 OK。ダシエルベイカー。
はい。場所に応じていろいろものが必要です。
まあそうだよね。
食べ物、防寒着、水泳着など。
そうだよね。はい。Absolutely. Based on the place. So 場所に応じて。Perfect. Based on the place, we need various things.
まあね。
Agreed.
ビーチかもしれないからね。ビーチかもしれないよね。
そうかもしれないよ。はい。
ビーチかもしれない。
いえ、ルンピー。はい。According to, based on the story, it's not true. According to, based on the story, so something is, some random thing is not true. Okay. So,
よってだよ。
によってだよね。So, because we're just stating a state of being, you're going to go with によって. So, a really important part with に応じて is you're going to do some action to change something. You're going to make a choice, do something. Or you're describing a change. Those are the main things you're going to be using に応じて with. If it's just a state of being, or an intransitive thing that happens that has nothing to do with you or no change involved, you're going to be only using によって. So for that sense, you can't actually use に応じて, unfortunately. So what you would end up saying there is 物語によって、or その物語によって. So according to that story, or based on that story,
真実じゃない
です。真実じゃない。So, something like that. はい。
例えばなんですけど、その真実じゃないが後に来なければ、なんかそれぞれの物語に応じて、なんか応じてないね。
そう、応じてません。
応じてないわ。
そう。
例えば劇をするだと、その物語に応じて、劇の物語に応じて、衣装が必要ですとかは言えるんだよ。
So Yomi-chan actually has a good extra reading of ojite that might help. The extra meaning that they have there that I didn't see in other places was in proportion to. Like that might help you understand a little bit more. So in proportion to the number of people that come, which would help you see why it doesn't quite work with based on the story. So maybe I was wrong with using based on for all my translations. Maybe I shouldn't use it. Maybe it made sense to me, but maybe based on was a little bit too confusing. So it might have been better to go back and change those two in proportion to or depending on or something like that. It might make it make more sense. Yeah, okay. Sorry. Are modern onyomi similar to Chinese or are they heavily diverged so there is no similarities? If you look closely, onyomi, I mean, they're all the Chinese readings, so they're very close to how they're read in Chinese, but obviously the pronunciation will be a bit different. And sometimes it'll be completely different. But a lot of them are very close to the Chinese, I believe. In fact, you'll hear a lot of words in Chinese that are almost identical to the Japanese, just with, slight pitch and pronunciation differences. So yeah, still quite close for onyomi. Which is why Chinese learners of Japanese tend to do extremely well on tests in Japan, like proficiency tests, because they can read it all. They have no problems reading most of the words. A lot of the difficult kanji questions on like N1 or something, JLPT M1, are based on the onyomi. So if they can read that, they're fine. So it's actually quite easy for Chinese learners, from what I've heard at least. Another big brain today I learned. You're welcome. You're very welcome. Yeah. That's what this is for, my friend. Based on is kind of correct as long as there's a proper context on how it's used, like in English. Right. Exactly. Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, that was good.
Hi.
That brings us to this. Thumbs up を攻撃してください. Please smash the thumbs up button. It looks like most of you already have. Thank you so much. It helps get these out to people who might be interested. チャンネル登録お願いします. Please subscribe and hit the bell so you know when we go live next week for our next live stream and any new videos that might be coming out. There may be one video out this week, but it's more of an informational sort of, it's not a lesson thing. It's going to be talking about, the new person who's joined our team, Yuki's younger sister. This time in English. She did an interview with her, but on the podcast channel, but we're actually going to introduce her here on this channel and talking about a little bit what she's doing over on the website. So the immersion section that we're working on over there. So she's already written about 9 stories, short little pieces that have been released on there, along with Yuki's 8 or 9 stories that have been released, plus our links out to the Tadoku stories that are based on the lesson in Genki that we've sort of divided by there. So there's quite a bit of content over there that you can read through if you're still in Genki. I mean, if you're here with us on Quartet, that's probably not going to be super necessary for you, although I have heard people that are on Quartet going back to read those and enjoying them as well. So either way. Hayasugi, 今日もありがとうございました. Michael-san, I know we just noticed, we just saw you here the last few minutes ago. And yeah, we're already finished. But yes, you're very welcome, High Carb Diabetic. Thank you, Tom-chan. Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
ありがとうございます。
Yeah.
ルンピのティータイムが来ていると思います。
Oh, okay. 本当だ。ごめんね。
はい。
肉の
値段に応じて。肉の値段に応じてあまり肉を買える。
Okay, first things first. あまり is used with negative. So you're going to say あんまり肉を買えない. So I'm unable to buy much meat. 買える means can buy. So you're not going to be able to use あまり with that. But since we're talking about a barbecue, for example, 肉の値段に応じて肉を買おう or something like
そうだ
that.
ね。
You could say I'll buy meat based on or depending on the price of the meat is something you could say. Absolutely. Super close. Super close.
ねえ、惜しい。
Almost there. No worries, Ryuji. We're at the end now, but it was good to see you again, man. Thanks for stopping by for a while. よかったです、ルンピ。私たちも楽しかったです。また次回ね。
ありがとうございます。
Next week, what are we covering again? I can't even remember. Let's go back. Next week, we're covering 分だけ and 似すぎない。似すぎない is one you're going to see a lot. I mean, gachi is also quite common. に応じて is also common. といっても they're all common. 似すぎない I've seen a lot though lately because I've been reading quite a bit more and listening to audiobooks and it shows up a lot. で、以上は。So that's also fairly common. So that'll be fun.
なんかね
どうか
最近のなんかレッスン12のやつは、なんか英語にするそのセンスが結構難しい気がするんだよね。
そうだよね。
なんか
Should be
それっ
challenging to
て
translate.
そうそう英語にそのフレーズそういうフレーズがあるのかなって思うの、なんかさこういうなんか共通のさそのさあこれだってやつがさ
There's
なん
like
かな
six
いんだよ
different phrases that might
ね
fit depending on the situation for a lot of
う
these
ん
patterns, but because it's not really grammar at this point, it's patterns. It's what's called bunke. So it's not bunpo. What we've been covering for the past few lessons are called bunke.
うん
Is that the K?
そうです
Yeah, that's the one, right? So we haven't really been covering bunpo. So we've been covering bunke, which is sentence patterns. So that's pretty much what's been covered in all of Quartet too. So it's these little patterns that can be translated into English in like 6 different ways depending on the situation. So anyway, thank you so much, guys. We got this one nice and broken down. You helped me think about it a little bit more as well because I was just going with based on, but then I realized why that could be a little bit confusing. So hopefully I'll be able to use some of those clips from the question time to help people on the cut understand it a little bit more. お疲れ様です, Malkov. ありがとうございます, Arthur. And thank you for being a member. All of you members here. We've got Tom-chan, Loopy, and Arthur tonight. And I believe Robot, なんだっけ? Robot なんちゃら. Ginger Robot. Ginger Robot-san. I don't know if you're still here, but thank you so much for becoming a member. Appreciate that. Oh, using the member stickers. We got to make more of those. We really do. それは今週か来週。
新しいさいただいたやつは
でも I feel bad using those. Someone gave us some super cool stickers, but I feel bad using those as a paid member perk.
かわいいやつなのに
They just gave them to us. I'm going to watch as much content of yours as I can. I love the way you teach. Very fun and engaging. Hopefully I can boost my learning. I hope it can help. High carb diabetic. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And if you ever have any questions, please let us know. We have a Discord and stuff, so we're always in there. Not always, but there's always people in there. And we're in there a lot, so feel free to ask in there as well. Much love to the Andy and the Yuki. Thank you very much, the human being. It's always good to have you here, human being. Always need one, at least one human being here. Appreciate that.
私もヒューマンビーンさんありがとうございます。
お疲れ様です。
はい、みんなお
Thank
疲
you,
れ
Michael.
様です。
早起きしなきゃので先に失礼しますわ。はい、おやすみなさい、マイコさん。All right, everyone. Well, have a good week, and we will see you in the next stream ね。
はい。
はい、また次のビデオで
会いまし
ょうね。バイバイ。
はい、またね。
Planning to use these books to learn Japanese in 2022? We explain all the grammar from these books and more here on YouTube in detail. And on ToKiniAndy.com, we have tons of extra grammar explanations, interactive practice exercises with Yuki and I, native shadowing exercises so you can get practice speaking even when you're by yourself, tests, and even progress bars to track your progress through the book. We also plan on beginning to add tons of level-appropriate immersion material throughout 2022. We even have a new exclusive community for members where they can ask questions, help each other, and even play silly Japanese word games. Over 1,800 people have already utilized the ToKini Andy and Yuki premium content. Join the community today and kickstart your Japanese learning journey.